Hey everyone, welcome to my mini tutorial series on how to make and render a pumpkin bomb. In this series I'll go through some simple techniques and using some of Blender's array and mirror features to help us save time while modelling. After this I'll go through the process I use to set up the road along with the HDR backdrop, camera settings and lighting and rendering, and hopefully by the end we'll be left with a relatively low poly model nicely rendered in the scene. So here we go, let's start. So here we are in a fresh scene. The first thing we probably want to do is just delete everything. We don't need that just yet. So you press Shift and A and add a UV sphere. So down here in the left, just make sure that it's 32 segments and 32 rings. We're going to split this all up later, and 32 will divide nicely for what we need it for. I'm going to rotate it on the Y by 90. If you press N, we'll open up this side panel. And we just want to freeze these transformations. So Control A, and we want to apply the rotation. So that's all zeroed out. So what we want to do, if we face it on, we want to add a few reference images just so we can start cutting in some extra lines as a guide and where we're going to separate objects off. So for that I've already gathered a few images from Google and from trailers, just paused it, take a screen capture. I'll only use 2 for this one, but it's definitely worth gathering more reference. It always helps. So we'll use this one. I want another reference before. So that's what we need. I'm going to grab your sphere, press G, and move it over roughly. Luckily it's about the same size, but if not, you can always scale it to be the right size. Z, go into wireframe. So now we just want to rotate the sphere so it's facing the same way. So let's go this way first. All I'm doing here is lining up the closest line that I can find, which is this. At the moment is this ring here. And then we'll rotate it upwards to fit a little bit better. There we go. So it doesn't fit perfect, but this is why we're going to cut in some other lines now. You want to press Tab to go into edit mode, 2 to activate edge selection, and if you press Control and R, this will add a ring. So now we want to choose the edge. It can be quite difficult sometimes because you can see the back of the sphere, but you'll learn just to, you can see these rings where they're coming from this, so you can pick that. And we want to match it up between the green and the black. So probably about here. It's quite blurry, so you just have to just take a best guess. So there we go. The next loop we want to cut, it will be this black section here. These will all be combined again once we've extracted them and done what we need to. So press Control R. It'll automatically put it in the middle, but if you click and then it'll let you slide along. So we want to go roughly about there. And the next one we'll choose will be the end of these spikes. So I mean that fits pretty well already with that. Let's go with that for now. That one's alright. And the next line will be this line here. So it's all about just separating it out into its component parts. This makes it more manageable. So it's quite close to this line. I'm gonna put it about here. If you look where the line's coming down here and this section starts, it's gonna be about Yeah, I think that's right. So now if we press 3, actually before that, if we go into material preview, it's best if we add a material onto this now. So down here into material, just add a new slot, new texture, and I know it's a goldy colour, so let's just pick it. We'll change all these in Painter eventually anyway, so it's just for reference and knowing where we're putting stuff. So material, oh, wireframe. Back in face mode, we want to select the green bit, so make it easier to go into solid. If you hold Alt and select near the edge of a face, it will select the whole loop, and then you can press Control and the plus and minus on the keyboard to shrink and grow the selection. So if we go back into wireframe, you can see that that's going to be the green section. So we'll go back in, we'll add another material. Let's make it a green. Apply that, make sure, yep. And we're going to do the same with the next black section. So let's make a black material. So we know wireframe. Yeah, so right in the middle. Let's select that ring there. Expand it 1. So these little sections here will have little triangles or spikes cut into them. So half of it will be black, half of it won't. But for now, just so we can make more sense, we're just going to do that. And we'll cut them in and change part of it back later. So wireframe, into the front mode. Yeah, and I missed one. So it's that section as well. Is it? No, it's not. No, ignore me. Yeah, that's good. So now we're done. That's it. So we can remove. We'll just turn them off for now. Select our sphere, and we'll just bring it back into the center. So we've matched that up now. If you right click when you're in object mode, you can set it to shade smooth. So I'll get rid of all the jaggies. So now back into edit mode, I'm going to be face selection and just select something near the middle. This is the way I do like to select stuff, but you can go into the side view, into wireframe. If you know exactly where you're going to be selecting to, you can just drag select and it'll select which ones you need, but it's just personal preference. We do need them back. It was bring that back. That's my mistake. I needed to know there. Okay, so what we'll do now first, just for ease, because I could change the colour of that, but I want to keep it gold. That's the next one up. Did we say we're keeping it there, didn't we? Okay, sorry about that. Let's bring that over. We'll turn these off. We just want to extract this mesh at the moment. So if you select what you want, press P, separate selection. You can go up here. Let's call it the end. So it just leaves it with this. We're going to remove half of this sphere anyway, because we don't need it. We're going to mirror it over, so just delete that edge. Select any face, press L, that will select it all. Select linked. X, delete faces. So now we've just got half. We can go back to that end piece, into the modifier, and just add a mirror. Now we can do that the same. So the reason why before we added 32 sections around is because if you look at the reference images, these little like fin sections, these little I'll call them fins, altogether there's 16 around, and 32 are divided nicely into in 16, so it gives us 2 polys, that two faces each across. We can add more later if you want to go for more polys, but we'll keep it quite low for now. So best thing to do, just select the top 2, Control I, will invert your selection, X, and delete them faces. So we're just left with this bit, and this. Oh, add a mirror onto that, and then apply that mirror. So now we've got this section, and this is really the only section we'll need to work on for this bit, and we'll mirror it all around, so there's no wasting time. Again, apply smooth onto that. So what we don't do now, if we apply before we apply an array, let's hide these. So where were we? Array. So what we want to do now is just before we array this around in a circle, just add Shift A, add a empty plane axis, and we'll just call this array rotation. Oh, array rotation. So now when we select this piece, add an array, set the count to 2. We can set that as 0 because we're using an object offset. And the object we want to select is the empty that we've just selected. Yeah, so this array is just attached onto here. And if you split 360 up into 16 segments, it's 22.5. Let's put it in minus so it goes this way. It makes it easier to see. So that's spot on. Now we can just keep adding arrays around. So that'll make us a sphere. For now, I'm just going to keep that as 1, but we'll do this again later. And that's already set up. Matter of fact, we don't want 22.5 because each section, if you look at the reference, there's one section and the other section is rotated or mirrored and rotated by 22.5. So we'll need this number, but for ease, we'll double that, and we'll do minus 45. So when we add an extra section, these are the sections that will stay in the same orientation. So later on, once these have been arrayed around, we can apply this, duplicate it, and then rotate it 22.5 degrees. So ignore that for now. Let's turn that off. So we want to start cutting in these details. So forward on. Actually, rotate 180. I actually find this easier to do when looking at this upside down, because it's kind of where we're going to be looking at it anyway. So this section here is going to be this. So looking at the reference, we want to roughly find, let's rotate it. Oh. Always make sure you're coming in and out of edit mode. I find myself doing that all the time. Let's rotate this just so we can see it a little bit easier. So this line is going to be this here. So we can see that that remains straight, but this one has a cut into it, which makes this hole here. The first thing we want to do is roughly gauge the size that this is gonna make. So I can see this object. If you press 2 on the keyboard, in the edge selection, you want to Shift R. Oh, sorry, Control R to add a ring, and then looking at the reference, we wanted this edge, these lines of faces here, this ring of faces, to be roughly round about this size. I mean, this is handmade anyway, so it's never going to be perfect. So we just have to take a good guess. I mean, that's quite close. So we'll just stick with this for now. And again, now we're going to start looking at cutting these in. So now this line has become this one here. We can tell roughly. So if you press K on the keyboard, this brings you into the cut tool. And you can just start cutting wherever you want. To set that, press Enter, and it'll cut what you need. Let's remove that. So on this little right angle. Just have to make your best guess. We can match this all up again onto the model, but at this point we've got the size. We can work it out and we know what looks right. So let's say about here onto here. So we just put that little cut in there. And again, little section goes up, across and down. So we'll do this across. So roughly gauge how much is there. So look at the angle of this. It's probably about another 1 and a bit. So 1 and a little bit. So let's just say there for now. We can always adjust these later once we've got all the lines in. Just for, so this angle here is not as drastic as that. So press backspace. Oh, right. So about here, make it a bit more drastic. There we go. Enter. So let's give us this section here. You got a little cut there. Here. At the moment, we're just sticking to outlines before we start committing and deleting these polys. We want to make sure that the size is correct. But like I just said, get these in rough, then you can look at your reference and say, okay, that's not quite right. Go back in, recut it slightly. So that is this section. And what we can do now is, so this section, this part that we've just cut is here. Down at the end will be into, so let me rotate this again out of edit mode. So now when we look, this is now the section that we're looking down on. This is here. This angle is here. So we want to cut in, to start with, let's cut in this little bit here. So K for the knife tool. Okay, here to, that's alright actually, onto there. Might be a bit too steep, but let's keep it for now. We can deal with that. I think this is where this, I don't think this section is correct. This is where I'm gonna, at this stage, I'm gonna look at the reference from the movie prop. So if you can see, it looks quite sharp. So that's the section that's cut out. So This is the top line that we've just cut, so we need another one slightly above it, but it looks to be the same thickness as the lines we cut in earlier, so we're going to keep it this same thickness. So knife tool, and we'll just slice that right across, enter, then up slightly. So now we want to cut where this section goes up. Again, try and keep it the same size. For this we can insert an edge. It's going to be, you just want to try and match it up with this one. So looks about right there. Let's cut that down. Trying to keep with the same flow of polys. Obviously this is a curved surface. If you look at it from this angle, you can see. So if you're cutting from this angle, you want to be about here to keep that flow coming. So cut that there and cut it about there. Into that, we'll clean all this up shortly. Now there's another little section that goes in. It's about, do it halfway there. There we go. So now we've got the foundations of the shapes that we're going to be extruding out of this model. First of all, let's just quickly clean this up. We'll remove the faces. Actually, I'm quite happy with these. If you're not happy with the sizing, you can always go through and remove them. But following the reference, we want to select the faces that we're going to remove, which is these here. Yeah, remove that, and that. Yeah, that's right. X, remove them faces. So that leaves us with this. And later on I will add more detail into this. But like I said, we'll keep it quite low poly for now, and later on we'll smooth all that out. So while this object's selected, if you're still in edit mode, press 1 to go into vertex selection, and we're just going to start just cleaning up some of this. So up in the top corner, it will auto merge on vertices that are in the same location. So activate that up here onto the snapping tools. If you click to the right, instead of increment, set that onto vertex. So now if we select the vertex that we want to get rid of, press G and then just bring it onto that. It'll automatically snap onto that. Then either you can keep doing that along the line, or go into edge selection, select the whole edge by using shift. Oh, it's not shift, it's alt, and select the line, and it'll select the whole line. X. You can dissolve them edges. The reason why I've done the first one is if I don't do that, and now I dissolve the edge, it leaves you with a 5-sided shape. Personally, I'm not a fan of them. So that's the reason why I cut that in. It's probably, saying that now, it would be better to cut it this way. You want to avoid, so originally we cut this way, and it leaves this small triangle. Usually you want to avoid having small triangles, like small stretched triangles, so I'll put it this way instead. It's a bit neater. We've got a 4-sided shape in our try there. Let's have a look. Oh, that was the only line that was, oh no, got one down here as well. I'm tempted to keep this one for now, just because it marks the line here, and we can use that later. We will clean that up, but for now that can remain just as a marker for this line here. Okay, so what we want to do next is add a little bit of thickness into this object. So with edit mode selected and face mode, you can select a face, press A. Usually in Blender you can just press E on the keyboard and that will allow you to extrude along any whatever you want. We're not going to do it for this bit. What I would like to do is extrude the whole model but keep each face in the way that the normals are already flowing. So when I say normals, if you click up here, down at the bottom, this little option here will display the face normals. So this is the direction that each face is pointing, and instead of, you don't want to extrude it straight up, I'd like to extrude it along these lines for each face. Now with them, we'll keep them on now for actually, so you can see it happening. So select a face, press A, and instead of E, if you press Alt and E, you can bring up this menu, extrude faces along normals. So now you can see is each face is going along that line that we originally had. So let's give it a little bit of thickness. There we go. We can turn these normals off now. So that gives us a tiny bit of thickness there. What we need to do next is extrude again, but just on a few selected bits. So this section here, mainly. You can, and because we've already cut the lines in for that, we can just go through, select these faces, Control E, extrude faces along normals. So about, not too much. I'm going to keep it quite light. There we go. So that gives us these cuts here. Sometimes I've noticed it's quite hard to see, but if you select up here again, you need to be in edit mode and click on, not that, you want, where is that? Ah, there we go. So, sorry, I'm going to be up in viewport shading, drop down, click on cavity. This gives you a nice little highlight around, just you can just pick out details a little bit better. So now I've got this section done, we can start arraying this round. So like I said before, we'll do it individual. We'll do it every other space at the moment. So if we click into the modifier, and the array is still active, so we can turn that back on. We'll just keep adding sections. We want to add 8 sections, so altogether the 16 divided by 2 is just 8. So that gives us this. So if we apply this, this gives us this shape. And all we can do now is we press Shift D and it'll select it. It'll automatically grab it. If you press right click, it's still there. You want to rotate it on the X axis to fit these. So we worked out before that was minus 22.5, which is half of the 45 degrees to get to this section. And now we just need to mirror that over. So in the X axis, just turn this to -1. There we go. We get this. It is hollow in the middle. What I've done is just add another UV sphere, rotate it on the Y 90 like we did before, but scale that down slightly, just so it's not cutting into these end pieces. and you can shade that smooth. So now if we go into material preview, this is where we are. If I select the ball on the inside, I just want to add this green material to it. So there we go. So turning on the reference now, we want to get these little cuts in. That should be black. There we go. For this, we will, first of all, to figure out where they're gonna, how much do we cut in or cut out of this section, we want to figure out where. There you go. So in this reference, they look like they fall into the center of this part here. So that's what we're going to do. Roughly, they're quite angular. So what we'll do is separate these out first, just so we're not messing around. And there you go. Just select the inner green bit. Press P. We'll take that out. We don't need that at the moment. And we can do the same as we've done before with these fins and array them round, so we don't need to do it again, but because every other, we only need 8 sections this time. So if I select these two, I'm also going to want a blank section as well, so I'll take one of these with me, invert that selection. Was that selected? That that's the, my bad, that is that sphere that's already getting in the way, so we can turn that off. There we go. So where were we? Yeah, so these two sections are where we're going to cut the triangle here into, and part of this section will become the gold colour. And because it's every other where we have this triangle cut in, I want to keep us a flat section as well, so I'm also going to take these two, who will act as there's the flat section. So select these for invert, so Control and I, X, delete them faces. And now we'll just select these two, press P, and separate them two. So these will, yeah, that's right. So these two can now be gold. And here we're going to cut in the triangle using the knife tool. So like we did before, just try and look at the reference and just gauge how steep that angle is. To me, it comes out roughly to about here, I think. So, knife tool. There you go. If you press Control while you've got the knife tool, it will snap into the middle. So for now, we'll just select in the middle of there, across into the middle. So that looks a bit too steep. So we'll bring that out a little bit more. Try in the middle there. Just like that. I think that's better. So we'll just remove these. So select them two. Dissolve edges. And now we can go into face mode. Just turn this into gold. There we go. So now with this, with the same array, that's 0, 0. We'll just make sure that these are stay as 0, because it can mess the rotation up when we're mirroring them across. We can just remove that mirror for now. We don't need that. We'll wait till we're finished. So we'll add an array modifier. Set the X factor onto 0. Object offset, and we want to select this array rotation and we can set that to 8. There we go. And again with this one, array 0, object offset, select the rotation, and just move that round. So there we go. We'll apply this array because we need to extrude this section in a minute. So select both of these. If you press Shift and Control and J, it will join them together. Just to make sure that when you join things together, if you go into vert mode like this, it doesn't join them together. So just be mindful of that. So you can just select a vert, press A, and you can press M and merge by distance, and you get a little slider down here, and that just starts merging them. So you can keep it really low because they'll be sharing the same space. The distance can be super low without affecting anything else. Just realised what I should have done really is cut these in. Instead of going all the way back, I will just manually do this for now. It won't take long. Actually, there we go. That. Delete them faces. Probably quicker to do it this way. I think this is the joy of using an array. You can do these really quickly. Let me just add 8. Apply that. Vertex mode, merge by distance. There we go. Now they're all cut in. So in the reference, this is slightly raised up. It's hard to tell from that image, but I just want to select these. There we go. I think instead of extruding from normals this time, it's not that bad. Let's have a look at extruding it just normally. So extrude in the x-axis straight out. I think that's better for this section. So with these faces already selected, just press Control and plus on your number pad just to select the next row of faces. I know in this image it's not black, but I think personally it's better black. It makes it pop a little bit more. So as we've done before, we need to set the auto smoothing on. There we go. That will give us this. So let's turn that section back on. We can mirror this back over shortly. What we'll do now is just add these sections. So same again, they come in between here. So looking at that, I'm going to press Shift A, and this time we'll add a cylinder. Rotate that the Y90. Before we've done that though, it's quite probably don't want it that high, so we'll add another cylinder. Instead of 32, we could 16 will probably work in this instance. We'll set it as 16, but you can always add and remove. So rotate that Y on the 90. We want to scale that down. If we go into wireframe mode, we can't see anything. But it's roughly, actually, come out of wireframe mode. If we move this outwards, and we'll move it up here. Sometimes you want to see the wireframe on the other model. You just click up here, you select wireframe. So now we can see where these sections are. We could have also went into material. I want to try and get this central position in the middle here. So let's bring it up slightly to about there. Scale that down. Now we really want that location to act as 0. So if we press Control A and apply the location and the rotation, actually, yeah, 0 all these out. So now when we rotate, we know that center is going to be minus 22.5, same as before. So 22.5, let's 0 that rotation out and bring it back. So grab. So let's do a little bit of work. We're going to use the array rotation again, so we only have to work on one of these objects. So like little lights. So what we can do, subject, face selection. If you press the little period key on your number pad, it will zoom in for you. So I think in the reference images, this section's slightly tapered. Bring that in. And we'll insert, so press an I on the keyboard. Just bring that in slightly. And extrude. Bring that there. We don't really want to extrude anymore because it's going to be cutting in. What you could do is bevel these in. But I'm not gonna do that at the moment because we haven't really got enough polygons here to do a clean bevel. We'll end up with quite a few lighting issues, and it's not worth it. It's not worth the hassle if we're doing low poly. So say subject. I'm gonna do a little bevel. Select that ring. So with Control Alt select. You can Control and B. We can bevel that. This section you can add as many sections as you want. I'm going to put 2. There we go. So right click, shader smooth, and we'll come down here. Just apply auto smooth. Let's turn these wireframes off a minute so we can see. So that auto smooth hasn't picked up everything on that, so we'll just increase it slightly so it does grab that. There we go. And we want to add a dark material onto that. So the face, add the green. New material, the green, and we'll select that onto here when it lets me green. There we go. And now that 0, why is that moved? Oh yeah, so this is because we brought it back, so we'll just 0 that out. An array modifier, 0, object offset, you can't see it there, so array rotation. Where is? Okay, right. Delete that for now. I didn't set the scale, so all these, all the scales we've been doing have not been set. So let's apply them. You can set it onto all. Just click all. It'll apply everything. Back into the array, 0, object, array rotation. There we go. So now we can add 8. If you keep this array modifier on and don't collapse it down, any changes that you do in the one will be mirrored over. So usually I don't tend to collapse these down right until right near the end. So there we go, there's that. If we look at this in solid view, it looks alright. We'll add this little rivet onto it as well. So pretty much the same way we've done this section. So we'll add a cylinder, 16. That's good. Into front view. Let's bring it up. Scale it right down. Let's just get rid of them for a minute. So we want to roughly match the curve here. Because we've only moved it up, it should already be in the center. Let's select these edges. Little bevel. There we go. We'll probably delete the rest of these under here. So select bottom face, Control and plus. Go into wireframe. There we go. Because that's all hidden, we don't need that, so we'll just delete that. Select this face, I, insert. Let's bring that in slightly, and then E, just to extrude that in. There we go. Ooh, shade that smooth. We'll, where's it gone? Auto smooth that. Again, that just needs picking up. There we go. That's that. There's a little rivet. We'll just zero everything off this time. There we go. So scale still as 1. Let's go to array, 0, object offset, the array rotation. There we go. Let's bring that around. So now what we'll do is, for this one, we will apply them straight away. We'll then apply a mirror modifier to bring it over. It's in the wrong location, but we can rotate that 22.5. We know that's in the center, and then apply that. So we've got this section, and we'll just merge these together at the moment. So the end piece, there we go. So Control and J to merge them together. What's that array for? Let's apply that array. There we go. And just a mirror modifier again. And there we go. That is the main process I took to make the pumpkin bomb. Oh, that's not mirrored over. Okay, let's just isolate that a second. Wireframe, select that. So all I've done there is wireframe, face selection. Just select it all. If you don't have wireframe on, select from a solid. You won't select the bits behind. So it's easy to go into wireframe. And now we'll rotate these. Can't see the rotation. We'll separate them. So press P, separate. Bring everything back. There it is. 22. Zero that. There we go. sure where that come from. We just join them back together. So Control J. If you wanted to keep it low poly, you could leave it here if you want quite far away shots. Or you could, if you want close-ups, you're gonna start running into, you're seeing the edges now. I could make another lesson on the process I took about then adding more detail into this. So if I open up my one, for the final main renders, we had a lot higher poly, and that was and this was worked from the low poly. I didn't remake it with a higher poly count to begin with. Starting with a lower poly count is always better. It's a lot more manageable. Trying to make this model to begin with this many polys, it's just going to be a nightmare. It's personally not worth it. It was easier just to add them later. And this is in between. So we've got the version that we've just made. This is adding more cuts, so just going through, adding a few more sections in, and then for the final render I added more, but this was going through and highlighting edges and setting them to be creased, so the main crease, and then I can smooth it properly. But I will go through all that in another lesson if people want me to. It's a bit more in depth. It's a lot more. Yeah, it's a lot more in depth. It's a lot more work to do that. So in the next lesson, I'll go through unwrapping the model along with the processes I took to make the road using the HDR and general rendering. So until then, thanks for watching.